Last night was the longest State of the Union address in US history, and it was full of ramblings from an old man president, exaggerations about the opposition, and outright falsehoods when it comes to the state of our country. Today, we're going to be going over the top moments of the night so you don't have to watch the full speech. My name's Mason. I'm a progressive live streamer known as One Hand Politics, and I've partnered with Courier to bring you the most pressing news of the day. Everyone has been anticipating what Donald Trump would say during the State of the Union address. This is a president who is losing popularity every single day, empowering federal agencies to abuse and terrorize American citizens, and has built a second administration and a term on vindictive revenge. He is not a president for unification. He has openly said that half of the country hates this country and actually wants the worst for it. We should demonize those people as much as possible. Democrats can't be Christians. Democrats aren't real Americans, yada, yada, yada. We know that Donald Trump is divisive. And so people were wondering, what is he going to say during this speech? Hakeem Jeffries, arguably the most powerful Democrat in both chambers of Congress, has said that he wanted Democrats, in order to show their opposition, to be silently defiant. Listen to what he had to say.
The two options that are in front of us in our House is to either attend with silent defiance or to not attend and send a message to Donald Trump in that fashion, which will include participation in a variety of different alternate programming that is going to take place in and around the Capitol complex.
Now, this strategy has received lots of criticism from Democrats and independents alike. Donald Trump has shown himself to be one of the most bombastic presidents that we've seen. He is openly celebrating the death of Americans. He has said that ICE has full jurisdiction to do as they please. They're not committing abuse. Those that are the victims of ICE abuse are domestic terrorists. Like, this is a person who takes joy in seeing Democrats suffer. And so, for the most powerful Democrat in Congress to say that Democrats should just silently watch in defiance, not really make too much of a spectacle, respect the decorum of the presidency, that does not fly with people who are actually pissed off at this administration. We need genuine leadership that will take a vocal opposition stance against the president. That is what most Democrats are upset about. Now, that doesn't mean that all Democrats listen to that advice. Many were vocal in their opposition, specifically Ilhan Omar. She said that Donald Trump is killing Americans. Norma Torres raised two photos of two U.S. citizens who were killed by immigration enforcement officers. These are people that were showing genuine opposition. One of the most ludicrous moments of the night was Donald Trump saying that he's ended 8 wars as president since he took office last year. Let's watch the full clip.
Country has never been stronger. In my first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? Sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people said the prime minister of Pakistan would have died if it were not for my involvement.
Like, it is so delusional. It is delusional to get so mad about Democrats laughing about a clearly obvious lie. Donald Trump did not end 8 wars. Most of these conflicts didn't even happen within his first term, and not all of them were even considered wars by those that were participating parties. If you polled every single head of state of these countries that he's listing and you asked them what was the cause of your conflict, either diminishing or just outright ending, I guarantee you, not many would say that Donald Trump was the reason why there's peace in the region. And then Donald Trump, when Democrats have a very clear reaction to hearing a falsehood and just instinctually laughing, he calls them sick people. The Democrats were not screaming, they were not shouting. They laughed because they were in disbelief. They could not believe what they were hearing. And Donald Trump called them sick. So even minimal reactions become part of a larger political spectacle where Donald Trump is saying that the character of who you are as a representative is contingent on how much you worship me, how much you accept my lies, how much you just believe the narrative and drink the Kool-Aid. You cannot have any opposing opposition opinion. You can't even laugh. Despite Hakeem Jeffries urging Democrats to stay silent, and most of them actually remaining silent for the full duration of the speech, this is what Mike Johnson had to say about congressional Democrats after the State of the Union address.
Mike Johnson from the great state of Louisiana. Mr. Speaker, nice to talk to you. And you probably can't hear, but I'm here with Rob, who was at lunch with us at the Off the Record lunch yesterday. And you talked about this State of the Union tonight. Is it what you expected and predicted?
It is. Thanks, Greta. And Rob, great to be with you. I'd spoken to the president a few times before tonight about the speech, encouraged him to tout all the wins and don't leave anything out. You know, it was the longest State of the Union in history, as everyone's noted now. And he could have gone much longer, as we all know. Greta, you know him as well as I do.
It is not a
He
brag.
enjoyed tonight, and we did as well. I think it was a great reminder for the American people about all that we've accomplished. This is a record of promises made and promises kept. And because of that, America and the State of the Union is strong, and we're getting stronger.
What was the sight as you watched? You looked at it. You look over the president's back, and you see the Republicans up applauding. Naturally, it's their party, but the Democrats are just sitting there for the most part, except that there were occasions like when Senator Elizabeth Warren did stand up and clap about the insider trading issue. But give me an idea what it looked like from your perspective.
You know, it was a very shameful display. There was a couple of times, there's a couple of House members that I probably could have ejected from the chamber because of their behavior, but the president handled it so well. And I decided not to do that because, you know, I thought it would be better for the American people to see that, to see the shame that they are bringing upon themselves. And they just continue to do it. They stood at the wrong times, and they refused to stand when they should have. I mean, they stood and applauded themselves for voting against the working families tax cuts. So they voted to impose the largest tax increase in history on the American people, and they clapped for themselves. I mean, that video is going to be very valuable to us in the future. And
So what he's talking about here is Democrats clapping in opposition to corporate tax cuts. Donald Trump tried to make one of the largest corporate tax cuts that Mike Johnson and many other congressional Republicans will argue trickles down to the average worker. That's bullshit. Every economic indicator and empirical study shows that that does not happen. Trickle down economics is a lie. The only way that you can raise wages is by empowering workers, more collective bargaining, ensuring that there's more regulation on capital gains or on corporate greed. We need to make sure that we prioritize workers, not corporations, not corporate tax cuts, because that does not help the average worker, regardless of what any Republican in Congress will tell you. But the most important part of this clip is Mike Johnson saying he still wanted to eject members of Congress who were just sitting there silently defying. He said that what constituted ejecting those members was them not standing at the right times. Is that really what's a barometer of success? Is that what we need to measure as whether or not Congress deserves to listen to a speech? Is how much they cheerlead for the president and stand up for an openly fascistic authoritarian leader? That's what we're looking for. The president also tried to continue to advocate for his SAVE Act, which is the largest voter suppression bill in US history. It would limit the amount of people who are able to vote, specifically in marginalized communities, and it would increase the barriers for people to be able to participate in their democracy. Listen to what Trump said about this and Democrats' motivation for voting against it, apparently.
And the reason they don't want to do it, why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason. They make up all excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things you almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated, and their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John.
The John that he points to is John Thune, who's the Senate Majority Leader for congressional Republicans. This is the goal. It is to villainize anybody who wants to make sure that voting is still a sacred right. That's what the president is going with here. He's saying that proving that a lot of these laws are racist because they specifically target Black and Latino people, that somehow is a win for Republicans. It makes no sense. That is the pattern of this speech, as a lot of it is incoherent. It's rambling. Democrats can only win when they cheat. Explain that to Remit, who just won in Texas in an upset election in a plus 20 district. That is not because the Democrats are presenting this grand vision for the future. That is how much voters hate Republicans right now. And if that is any indicator, the midterm elections will be a wash if they are conducted legally. It's all projection too at the end of the day, because Donald Trump is the only one who's actually tried to cheat elections. He called multiple state officials in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, Arizona, all of the states that he lost in 2020, and demanded that they found more votes for him, or that they paused the certification of the election until he could send false slates of electors to actually vote in his favor. It is such a projection. And it makes every time you hear Donald Trump say Democrats are trying to cheat elections, just remember he's holding up a mirror to his face when he's saying that. He's looking at himself in the mirror. Additionally, after the Supreme Court shut down the tariffs that Trump tried to pass unilaterally, he said that congressional action won't be necessary for future tariffs. Listen to this.
Could be far worse for them, and therefore they will continue to work along the same successful path that we had negotiated before the Supreme Court's unfortunate involvement. So despite the disappointing ruling, these powerful country saving, it's saving our country, the kind of money we're taking in, peace protecting. Many of the wars I settled was because of the threat of tariffs. I wouldn't have been able to settle them without. Will remain in place under fully approved and tested alternative legal statutes. And they have been tested for a long time. They're a little more complex, but they're actually probably better, leading to a solution that will be even stronger than before. Congressional action will not be necessary. It's already time tested and approved. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love.
First of all, President of the United States saying he's going to abolish income tax, complete lie. Second lie, saying that tariffs are paid for by foreign companies. They are paid for by consumers. Every economic metric points to that. Consumer prices raise when tariffs are implemented, which is why it is a consumption tax on the people, essentially. Also, saying that he does not care that the Supreme Court shut it down. I loved that pan to the Supreme Court. You guys, you know what the majority is in the Supreme Court. It is a 6-3 conservative majority. And 3 of the justices that are on the Supreme Court right now were appointed by Donald Trump. 2 of them saying that his tariffs were illegal. The Supreme Court does not have a political motive to go against Donald Trump. They are saying, hey, you're clearly breaking the law. You cannot continue to just unilaterally pass economic policies like tariffs without consulting Congress first. And Donald Trump saying essentially he's going to double down. They're going to find some loophole, they're going to find some statute in order to implement these tariffs completely bypassing the legislative branch, which is supposed to be the most powerful branch of government endowed by the Constitution. Many Americans also feel financially strained. I mean, this is not a booming economy. While some economic metrics are shooting up, like the stock market, 39% approve of his handling of the economy so far. And many companies are going to be owed refunds for the tariffs that are clearly illegal as dictated by the Supreme Court of the United States. We've talked a lot about what Donald Trump and congressional Republicans said during the speech, but what's even more important is what was not said during the speech. There was zero mention of ICE abuse, which is one of the most pressing issues in every American's mind, Republican, Democrat, and independent. There's no mention of Minneapolis, no mention of civilians that have been killed at the hands of federal agents. Instead, there was only a focus on crime and what Donald Trump kept repeating, criminal aliens. This reinforces the selective narrative framing, and it really does show that Donald Trump prioritizes demonizing migrants over actually addressing concerns that a majority of his citizens has. I want to take time to emphasize Al Green's defiance. He was shortly escorted after the speech began, but he held up a sign in front of the president that said, "Black people aren't apes," referring to the meme that Donald Trump posted to his Truth Social account depicting Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as monkeys. Before Al Green was escorted out of the building, though, newly released video shows Senator Mullen try to rip the sign from his hands. This is what congressional Republicans think of any opposition to the president, and rightfully having a criticism over Donald Trump's negligence to post videos that depict racist caricatures of leaders of the country. I mean, Barack Obama was the president before Donald Trump. I have disagreements with Barack Obama, but it is insane to characterize somebody in the most overtly racist caricature that you could do towards the first black president. Donald Trump is an aging president who is losing support every single day. This speech reinforced some of the worst ills that the president has, which is exaggeration of actual accomplishments of his administration, complete denial that there are problems happening that people are attributing to Donald Trump's leadership itself. And Democrats have learned Donald Trump is an aging president who's losing support every single day. And this speech was reflective of many of the worst attributes that the president has. He exaggerates claims about potential success. He demonizes political opposition. He emphasizes that any disagreement with him or any lack of worship indicates you hate the country. This was a vindictive, terrible speech. And what's even more important to recognize is if laughing at exaggerated claims, as Democrats did, is enough to get you threatened with removal from Mike Johnson, the most powerful Republican in the House, the problem is not decorum or civility. The problem is that disagreement itself is being treated as illegitimate. Democrats need to recognize that we need strong vocal opposition, as we saw with Ilhan Omar, as we saw with Al Green. We need leaders like that who are willing to look fascism and authoritarianism in the face and say, we reject this. This is not what the American people want. We deserve a better country.